Pierce, and we are back for another Career Conversations with Nicole. I am so excited today. I have Jasmine Posey on the phone with me. How are you?
I'm doing so great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, thanks for being here. So students, Jasmine's actually from Mauldin Jenkins. They're one of our partners here at KSU. And before we get started, I would love for you to tell the students a little bit about Mauldin Jenkins and about what you do there.
Sure, I would love to. So I am fairly new to Mauldin Jenkins. I've been here about 3 weeks. I am really enjoying my time here, and I serve as the campus recruiter. And just a little bit about Mauldin Jenkins. We are a mid-sized accounting firm, so we have approximately 330 employees. We do tax, audit, assurance, and consulting. And so a little bit of everything. If you are interested in nonprofit, healthcare, construction, we provide a lot of different services for a lot of different clients, educational services. And so what's awesome is that we are starting an Associate 360 program. So students will have an opportunity to dabble in a little bit of everything when they intern with us. And so I think that that'll be really great for students. So you don't feel pigeonholed in, one kind of industry or one specific sector, and you'll really have an opportunity to just engage. Everyone here is super nice. We have 9 locations. So we've got locations in Alabama, of course, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and South Carolina. So if you are interested in any of those offices, we are constantly hiring for interns, where our applications for our summer leadership program is open. And so we are just really excited to engage with all of you.
Oh, I love it. So I'm going to ask a question. So in that 360 program that you mentioned, are they rotating between like tax, audit, assurance, and consulting, or are they just kind of cycling through the service areas?
So you'll be rotating through the tax, audit, assurance, and consulting.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. That's what and I love this student. So I hope that you guys are hearing this, because I only know of one other employer that does this kind of operation. And I think it's so cool because lots of the times students, you don't know which area you want to be in. You're just like guessing. So yes, pause this video, go check out Mauldin Jenkins, apply for their summer leadership program, because that's exactly what you need to do first. So today's topic, it's going to be a fun one. I think we all have it. So we're talking about Zoom fatigue and how to combat it. And at this point, I'm a little sick of it, but I'm a people person. So, that's part of the problem. And when we talk about Zoom fatigue, we are not meaning just Zoom. We're talking about any video conferencing platform. So we'll dive right in. Do you find yourself having Zoom fatigue? And how did you even know that's what it was?
Yes. So I remember when we first kind of, had to go into quarantine and everything really transitioned into being virtual. And it was this big conversation of what platforms are we going to use, which ones are more effective, which ones are going to allow us to engage with students the best. And so initially for me, I was like, oh, this is fun. And then, months into it, I'm like, gosh, I don't want to get on any more calls. And so I think that I absolutely have experienced Zoom fatigue. Yeah. And for me, it was just, initially I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I was tired. I knew that I was tired of trying to always look presentable and trying to always be, what they say, like being on. Yes. And then I started just doing research. I try to really stay on top of my professional development. And I heard the term Zoom fatigue, and I was like, what is that? And so when I researched it a little bit, that's when I really realized, this is what I'm going through. What was so interesting is I read that, before FaceTime and Zoom, those were opportunities for us to have fun.
Yes. And yes, that's such a good point.
Good connection point. And now it's being used for everything. And so it kind of takes that moment of, oh, this is a break. This is something thrilling for me to do out of it, because it's required in so many different areas of our life now.
I totally agree. And that's a great point of how it was used before and now. Well, can you describe, or do you know any of the side effects that Zoom fatigue can have? So if students were experiencing this, they could kind of identify it.
Yes. So I would say, just speaking, for me and what I've gone through, Definitely a lack of motivation. For me, it was like, I want to do my work. I want to do a great job. I just don't want to maybe talk right now.
I know.
So I think that is a big one. So if you are experiencing that, just like that lack of motivation, that lack of wanting to be engaged, finding myself not wanting to participate in things that were virtual but were fun, because you are spending so much time looking at yourself now. And that's not something that we had to do before. And I think that it just adds this extra layer of insecurity, which I guess would be another kind of warning sign. Are you feeling more insecure than you usually have been in the past? I've found myself on calls like, oh my gosh, like my hair is sticking up right there.
Yes, no, I still do that.
And then even, feeling distracted, like how distracted are you during these meetings? And, if you're finding yourself, trying to pay attention, but then you're also doing something off on the side,
yes,
number one, that isn't beneficial because you're missing a large chunk of information. But then number two, I think that it's a pretty clear warning sign that you are not engaged. Like,
right.
you are, kind of checking out. You're not interested. And because if you were interested, you wouldn't be, kind of doing other things.
Right.
And so I think that all of those things kind of fall into, kind of doing a self-check, if you will, of, are these some of the things that I'm experiencing?
The next question are tips on how to beat this.
Yes. And so what I try to do when I'm in person, and I've just found that it really works well for me, is trying to schedule myself like breather time in between meetings, right? And so especially, if you have a lot of things to do and you don't ever want to be late, I think that adds extra anxiety when you're trying to rush. So when I'm in person, I always try and give myself a buffer of like 15 to 20 minutes in between meetings. So if my meeting goes long, or if I have to kind of trek it, to somewhere else to get to it, I have that window of opportunity. But I think that doing that for video conferencing is also so important. Like, give yourself not necessarily just time in between meetings so that you make it on time, but time to recharge, right? And so if you have that ability, and sometimes we don't, and it's really unfortunate, but if you do have the ability, give yourself, that 15 to 25 minutes of just take a break, right? And if you can take that break, 5 of those minutes or 10 of those minutes can be you not even looking at the computer screen, because if we're honest, looking at the computer all day, even if you're not on a video conference, like it's really harsh for your eyes, it's harsh for your mind, and that makes you tired. And so I think giving yourself those mental kind of breaks, if you will, is so helpful. I said it earlier, try not to multitask, because that does just increase anxiety. It increases stress. If you're in a meeting, but then you're also looking at a list of things that you have to do at the same time.
I'm guilty of it.
Earlier, don't feel obligated to participate in optional events. And so if for you, participating in that extra event is going to do more harm than good, if it's not going to re-energize you, then it's okay to say, you know what, I miss you, I really do, but tonight I don't want to do virtual game night, and then if you can switch from a Zoom call to just a phone call, then sometimes that's really helpful. You don't have to like get up and get dressed, and you're not super conscious about all those things. And then I think sometimes, because once again we're valuing that connection, we try and make everything a call.
Yeah.
But some things can just be emails or a chat. So if it's quick, don't feel obligated to jump on a call. Can you send a chat message? Can you send an email? And I think that those give you like a really good break also.
Well, so how do you feel? So we're going to dig into like etiquette with Zoom a little bit, right? And so how do you feel, or what do you think about people getting up in the middle of a virtual meeting to stretch, to use the restroom, to just take a look away from the camera? So let's say you're in a meeting and maybe you don't even get up, but you just kind of like are looking over, not direct. I want to know how you feel about that, what you think the industry kind of feels about that, because as we kind of talk through this Zoom fatigue, I feel like some of those things could be helpful to try to combat it, but if there's this persona that you shouldn't do it, then it's like, where's the balance, right?
I actually loved this question when I read it. And I was thinking to myself, I think that this is so relevant, not just because I've personally been there, but because I know a lot of other people have been too. And so the first thing that I thought when I read this question was, let's think about how we identify or look at those individuals when we're in person, right? And so if we're in an in-person conference meeting, or if we're in class and someone kind of gets up and steps away to either take a call or to, use the restroom, I personally don't find myself judging them. Like, did you get up and leave? Like, what are you doing? So I think it really is about the professionalism, right? So if you are like, excuse me, just one moment, I need to step away for a moment, especially like, it's just me and you right now. So if I had got up and just walked away, you'd be like, where did she go? But I think that all of those things, I don't necessarily have a problem with them. I think it's just about, the transparency of it and, communicating and just making sure that you're always being professional.
Well, so that was my last question, but I always let all my guests give any last minute advice, last thoughts that you want to leave with the student before we jump off.
Absolutely. And so I just want to really put, hammer in professionalism. I know that this is a time where it's really easy to say, I'm in class or I'm going to this networking event. It's super casual or informal, but still make sure that you are approaching things with a sense of professionalism. So make sure that you're dressing appropriately, make sure that your background is really clear. Just really make sure that you're always presenting the self that you want other individuals to see. I know it's so hard and it's so easy to just get relaxed, but it's still a professional environment. And so I want to make sure that I kind of let students know that, those are things that we pay attention to.
So I love all of what you said. And what's so funny is I had a couple thoughts. So I did another career conversations not too long ago with faculty, and they were saying that students didn't have a shirt on and in class. And I'm like, oh my gosh, get dressed.
And then just two other quick pieces of advice. I would say that, feel comfortable letting the person that you're talking to know about distractions. And I think I said that earlier. If your roommate is that person that comes in and just lets doors close, but just so there may be a moment in time where it gets a little noisy. And I do apologize about that. I think that goes a long way, and it helps with that awkwardness of moment that, you're like, oh my gosh, this noise is happening and I'm so embarrassed. And then the person behind the screen is like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I think that communication just really is helpful. And then lastly, if you're experiencing Zoom fatigue and it's really overwhelming you and, you're not really sure where to go with that, it's okay, and seek the help that you need. If you're a student, visit the counseling department and try and process those feelings. And if you're an employee, then look at your EAP services, or if you have a really close relationship with your supervisor, have those conversations so that you can make adjustments that are going to make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah. And to that point, guys, I think you're not alone if you're feeling in that situation, right? I think we all are like, well, why can't I just deal with this? This is the new world.
Yeah.
But you're not alone. I think there's lots of people struggling with it, which is why we're talking about it, right? Oh, well, I love this. This was so great. Thank you for joining me today.
Love it.
Yeah, no, and hopefully we'll get to see each other sometime soon.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.